Hey Tigers, welcome to a brand new school year. I am so excited to have a brand new group of students, and I cannot wait to introduce you to so many new math ideas and concepts that you haven't seen before and that I hope you end up loving as much as I do. Now, to start off, since this is our first video for the new class, I want to explain how you can use this. So your YouTube videos we will post for every unit and hopefully every skill that we learn. These videos will be online and available to you whenever you want. And they will be just like the way we learn it in class. So it kind of can help you if you forget what we said in class, or if you're trying to study for an upcoming test, or if you just want to brush up on your own because you know it's something that you need to practice a little bit. These videos are here to help you however you need. If you need to watch it 4 times and pause and rewind and pause and rewind, go for it. Whatever you need to do to make sure you are as confident as possible with your math, and that's all I'm looking for. So to get started, we are going to begin our year the same way we normally do, which is with a place value review. Place value is a major key to understanding your numbers because we use place value to do all of our other operations and to strategically think about our responses and whether or not they are reasonable. So the first thing we're going to review with our place value is how to write a number in an expanded form. We know how to write our standard form. Word form is just writing out the words, but expanded form actually uses the value of the number to stretch it out and show the value of each place value instead of the whole number. So let's look at an example. If I have the number 625,421. And I want to convert this to expanded form. First thing I'm going to do is figure out each of my place values and the value for that individual digit in that place value. So for example, I have a 6 and it's in my ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000 spot. That means its value is 600,000. Now, I'm going to do that for each of my place values and then put my plus signs in the middle to show when they're added together, they equal my original number. So this one would be 600,000 plus 20,000 plus 5,000 plus 400 plus 20 plus 1. Now this is what we call our expanded form. The one thing that we have to keep an eye open for is expanded form zeros. Zeros can get really sneaky because notice there are zeros at the end of each of our values. And we want to make sure it's the right number of zeros to represent the right value. So I would count to double check and make sure I didn't make any mistakes. So for example, this is my 100,000 spot. That means there should be 5 zeros behind it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that should match up with the number of place values in my original number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have the right number of zeros. We're representing the right amount. To refresh your memory, this is called our expanded form. Now we will be doing expanded form up through the millions this year. So it's important that we practice these basic ones to make sure we're ready to rock the bigger numbers. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to review. We did the value, we did expanded form. Now we need to review rounding these numbers. This is one of the things that can maybe get a little tricky, but it's going to be the same steps every time. So as long as you can master those steps, you can apply it to any rounding problem you're asked. So for example, if I ask you to round, we're going to separate this so we don't get confused. Now, if I want to round 324,659, and I want to round that to the 10,000 spot. So if I'm rounding this to the 10,000 spot, what I'm going to do is I am going to take each of my digits and do something to them in some way. Major key, do not forget any digits. in class we were having a little trouble. We kept throwing away our first two numbers. Do not throw any numbers away. If your original number has 5 digits in it, then your rounded number should have 5 digits in it. We're not cutting out any pieces, but we are trying to make it into literally a rounder number. That means it has more zeros, the round number, at the end of it after the place value you're rounding to. So here we're rounding to the 10,000 spot. I'm going to start with my place value and the neighbor next door that's going to tell me what to do with my place value. So for this one, I'm working with the 2. That's my rounding place, and I'm going to use my 4 as my helper to help me figure out what to do with my rounding place. So the trick we use is 4 or less, let it rest, 5 or more, then we raise the score. However, we've been having a little confusion and I want to make this clear. If it's 4 or less, it just rests. It never rounds down. So if you're rounding this number, this should never end up being a 1. For example, we never want to round down. It's either leave that place value the same or bump it up by 1 digit. That's it. So in this case, it's 4 or less. We're not going to round down. We're just going to let our 2 rest where it's at. So our 2 rests here. Now, everything behind the 2 has to be rounded, meaning turned into a round 0. So that's going to be the 4, 6, 5, and 9. Now everything in front of the rounding place, that's what stays the same. You don't turn it, you don't throw it away, you do nothing but keep it the same. So that stays a 3. So if I am rounding 324,659 to the nearest 10,000s place, my answer would be 320,000. So that was our rounding. Now the last thing we want to work on is going to be addition and subtraction, but with larger numbers. However, this year it's going to get a little trickier. We are going to be subtracting across zeros, meaning we're going to be borrowing from a couple different place value columns, and we're going to have to borrow from numbers that don't have any value in their place value. So we have to figure out exactly how we're going to do that to make sure that we subtract and find the difference correctly. So an example of this. Let's say I am trying to subtract 6,004. And I'm trying to take away 327. So when I'm doing this question, I first need to start at my first place value, the 1s. When I look at the 1s, I see the 4 is smaller than the 7. Now that means I can't take it away. If I had $4 and you came and asked me to borrow 7, I wouldn't have enough to give you. So then I have to go next door. We go to our next place value and we borrow one of the 10s from my 10th spot. So we're going to take a 1 from here. However, there's none there. So then we have to go to our next 0. But there's still nothing there. So then we go to our last place value. That's going to be 6. We borrow 1 from that. It turns it into a 5. Then that turns this number into a 10. However, this guy still needed 1. So after this is a 10, we regroup again. This becomes a 9. And he gives his extra 1 to his neighbor, the other 0. So now this one is 10 as well. However, the 4 still needed some love. It still needs something. So we regroup one more time. The 10 becomes a 9. And now I have 14 that I can use as my 1's value. So 14 minus 7, that would give me 7. 9 minus 2, that would also give me 7. 9 minus 3, 6. And 5 minus nothing is going to stay 5. So my answer is 5,677. what I'd like to see you doing for all of your subtraction work is to add to check it. So that means you're gonna add together your bottom two numbers and see if it equals the top number. If it does, you've done your math correctly. That is a great way to know before you get anything graded or returned to you or reviewed by your teacher or parents, to know whether or not you got it right, all on your own. Now, when we are subtracting, I just want to review that one more time. If there are multiple zeros that you have to regroup, you need to go one at a time and then start from the left. So for example, I went and started here, didn't work for me. So then I went here, still couldn't work. So then I ended up where I could borrow the most. Then I have to regroup each column at a time. This is going to be probably one of our more difficult pieces of place value, so I recommend you make up your own questions if you need to, but I will also be providing practice questions that you can do to practice at home before we do some more in class next week. So that is your first intro video to place value. Now, as I promised in class, since this is a homework assignment, there will be a few questions I need you to answer to prove you watched this. There are 4 questions that need to be answered on the back of that worksheet I gave you with your name on it so you can get credit for doing this assignment. Please bring it with you on Monday and I will collect it at the beginning of class. Here are your questions to answer. Pause and stop this as long as you need to read the questions. And I hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Bye, guys.